Yeah, hello, good evening, everybody all over the world. I welcome you to another edition of Mentoring with Bola Adewara. Today, as advertised, we will be looking at the church as a mentor, and next week or in the next edition, we will be looking at the family as a mentor. Today, we want to look at some very important issues concerning mentoring. We want to look at how to mentor in the church, mentoring and the church, the challenges involved. Also, we'll be looking at your pastor as your father in the Lord, and also your pastor as your mentor. We'll be looking at 7 steps to mentor your wife, and also the 7 steps to mentor your children. I intend to spend just 20 minutes because I don't want to take much of your time. If we don't succeed in finishing all this today, we will do it next week and we will shift that next topic to another time, to maybe the upper week. But today we're going to look at the issue of how to mentor in the church and the challenges associated with mentoring in churches. Foundationally speaking, the word mentor or mentoring is a secular word. Pointing out this difference is relevant because Jesus did not use the word mentor or mentoring. The Christian word that is similar to mentoring is the word disciple. Jesus commanded the church to make disciples. The principles are similar, but they are profoundly different. The focus of teaching and training others is, for one thing, to conform to the image of Jesus Christ. This is the purpose of the Christian church. Be that as it may, the Church of God can still be another mentoring outfit. Mentoring in the church is primarily the work of the pastor, general overseer, the priest, the father, depending on the church. Faithful members of the church have the tendency of naturally coming under the mentoring umbrella simply because of their leadership styles, humility, respect, self-control, and most especially their exemplary lives. Such pastors command respect and great mentoring muscle even without knowing it. Under normal circumstances, a senior pastor should be a mentor to his junior pastor, even if he is not officially or ceremonially recognized as their mentor. He must constantly play the role in his leadership responsibilities. All senior pastors are potential mentors, and this is why it is called statutory mentoring. His position makes him one, even if he is not officially mandated to be. There is a need to find out how pastors can mentor his congregation. There is a biblical basis for this expectation. The book of Titus, chapter 2, verses 3 to 5, particularly targets women's involvement with one another. There is a biblical basis. Paul encourages young Titus to spot competent elderly women who could and should tutor and model righteousness to younger women in the body of Christ. Let me look at mentoring in the church. First of all, before I go into how the church can mentor, let me look at the challenges associated with mentoring in the church. In the church, number one, in the church, mentoring should flow from the pulpit to the pew, from the pastor to the congregation. However, church leadership or ministerial hegemony does not automatically confer the right of mentoring of his subordinates on the senior pastor. The mentor has to earn the respect of the protege by being a good confidant. 2, the mentor must be someone that the protege holds in high esteem and looks up to for superior ideas and wisdom for guidance. Hence, a senior pastor who cannot keep secrets or who is parochial in understanding and is virtually bereft of superlative idea cannot be a good mentor. Number 3, no matter his position on the church hierarchy, any senior pastor who is not intellectually stimulating and who is destitute of the requisite knowledge of human psychology cannot be a good mentor. This is more so if the junior pastor is a voracious reader of quality books, whereas the senior pastor is so averse to much reading, or he reads perfunctorily, or he is virtually limited, or he virtually limits his reading to Bible alone. You know, there are pastors like that. All they want to read is the Bible. They believe that they don't need to read any book outside the Bible. In all candor, you must be a reader, because a reader becomes a leader. Number 4, mentoring in a church setting largely depends on relationship. How well the senior pastor and other pastors carry on. How well departmental heads carry on with the members under them. This is a function of humility and interpersonal skill. Number 5, many younger pastors do not take their senior pastors as mentors. Why do this happen? Because if the goals and expectations of the younger pastor or supposed protege are different from the focus of the senior pastor, there will always be kind of antagonism, most times, and loss of confidence. Number 6, the supposed protege may know some of the weaknesses of his boss, which he doesn't want to be imparted into his destiny. That is why senior pastors need to be very careful. When the people under you find out that, my pastor is not a person I can trust, my pastor is this, my pastor is that kind of thing, and the younger ones do not have much respect for you. Maybe the way you do your things, or maybe the kind of prayer you pray, and the person is not, people who come there, a lot of people come with different ideas to the church there, and then they just find out that this pastor I am under, there are a lot of things about him, and then it leads to a kind of loss of respect from the younger one to him there. He cannot be a good mentor to them. Number 7, some senior pastors are not intelligent enough to produce after their kinds and guarantee the future of their commission. Senior pastors must be passionate enough to create time to mentor pastors under them into their vision. Moses, for example, in the Bible, raised 70 elders, and God put the Spirit in them. David, he gathered all these charlatans, all these rough guys together, and at the end of the day, they followed him. They became mighty men. Our Lord Jesus Christ raised sinners, people that were maybe largely illiterate, and made them pillars of his church. Senior pastors must do same to have a future in his ministry, but sadly, not all of them do this. Number 8, another challenge with mentoring in the church lies with some senior pastors' sense of insecurity. Some senior pastors are known to have mentored pastors under them to keep them as staff forever. When the younger pastor decides to leave to start their own ministry, the will to release them fades. They begin to see the younger pastor as rivals who could rise beyond them. Not a few pastors left their senior pastor in an unpalatable manner. Some senior pastors are known to have caused the younger pastors leaving them. All this boils down to the sense of insecurity. Number 9, possibly the senior pastor has not led good examples, or when the junior pastor needs some sort of counseling and spiritual assistance, the senior pastor was not there for them. It is automatic that he will switch allegiance to other pastors. Senior pastors should be available for the younger pastors. Some pastors don't even know where the junior pastor live. Some pastors don't even care when they see some of their younger pastors dressing poorly, or they are hungry, or things like that. As a journalist of the gospel, I have seen things, and sometimes I wonder, Pastor, why are you like this? Is your church not taking care of you? I don't want to go into that here now, but the relationship between some senior pastors or some general overseers and the younger pastor under them is not really good. Is always very, very terrible. 10. As a minister of God, you are either a product of a mentor or a product of a tormentor. According to a pastor friend of mine who is in Abuja, he told me something. He said in the Bible, Saul, who was supposed to be David's mentor, tormented David all his life. You can just imagine. David was chosen to be the successor. But you can just, I thought that even when Saul had been told that, look, you are no longer the king there, I thought he needs to be more magnanimous with David. But throughout, for 40 years, he was running after David. Until Saul died, David never rested. Just like the case of David and Saul, many senior pastors are so empire-minded that they see any minister growing under them as a threat rather than an extension of their grace. In such situations, which I have personally witnessed, such pastors could be regarded as father in the Lord, but not as a mentor, as seen between Paul and Timothy. You can have a mentor different, number 11 now, you can have a mentor different from your father in the Lord. If the area God is calling you into is different from where you are coming from. This is my friend who is in Abuja gave me, and he said, I gave my life to Christ. He told me something. He said, I gave my life to Christ as a Muslim in the Apostolic Church. There I grew to know the Lord and I was discipled. But later in my Christian development, I discovered that my area of calling, deliverance and healing, is not the same as the ministry I was in. He told me that even though his church believes in healing, but strongly against ministry of deliverance. So when his conviction about his calling became very strong, he enrolled in the school of deliverance and healing under another ministry. Then he became a source of mockery in his church because he was doing what was against their doctrine. He said at that junction, he had no option than to leave that church and join one that believes in the practices of the areas of his calling. You see, I have another example that I'll make so that this thing can be very clear to you. Can you imagine a person trained or who attended maybe the Bible school of maybe people like Bishop Oyedepo, where they are faith-based? They teach, they do all these things, and then he now moved to maybe another church like maybe CAC, where their doctrine is a bit different. And when they are praying, you hear them say, Olorun Ayo Babalola, in the CAC, without mentioning Olorun Babalola, maybe your prayer is not, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but then this is how we see it. All their prayer, Olorun Ayo Babalola, Olorun Ayo Babalola. But a man coming from a Pentecostal background will not pray that way. So when you gravitate towards such a ministry, you cannot see that pastor as your mentor. Because it could just end up being your father in the Lord. It might not be your mentor, because you see that your goals are totally different from what he's doing. At the end of the day, you will find yourself out of that very ministry. 12. The thought of another friend of mine, Pastor Sam Makewa, presiding pastor of a Kingdom of Light ministry in Idimu, Lagos, is very profound. He said a mentor is a guide, somebody that has an experienced shoulder for a protege to sit on and see far and clear. He said a pastor is a spiritual father, not necessarily a mentor. He said a spiritual father has to mold a young minister to a sound state spiritually, to form out a spiritual life that great destiny can be built on. If a minister is a good music minister under a man of God that is not inclined to music, such minister may need to look beyond a spiritual father for mentorship. The same thing goes for a young minister under a father in the Lord with different personal ministry. One can limit his ministry by limiting himself under a man of God that may not be able to do both jobs for him. Father in the Lord is wider than a mentor. If the father in the Lord understands this, he can even be the one that will ask his minister to look for a mentor elsewhere. Number 13, mentoring is the impartation of information, accepting perfect knowledge from an imperfect man. In some churches today, especially the Pentecostals, some people who are supposed to be taught are claiming to be teachers themselves. People who know nothing now stand as the front, they stand in the front now as leaders, senior pastors of churches. They have no teachable spirit. They claim the Holy Spirit is their teacher, unknown to them that we still need human to teach us. Most leaders in so many churches don't know that they are leaders, not mentors. In this generation of knowledge, they don't buy books, attend conferences. They won't read. When such leaders display attitude of ignorance, a sensitive and a very sensible follower will look elsewhere for mentorship. The sheep will always look for where the pasture is green. These are some of the things we look at today. Now, I want to tell you some important things about how to mentor in the church. If you are a pastor, you are a senior pastor of a church, let me show you how you can mentor your congregation or your pastor properly well. All these things I have enunciated in this book, Discover the Secrets of Mentoring. I've enunciated all this in the book, Discover the Secrets of Mentoring. Now let me look at it there and then show you how you can be a good mentor in the church. 1, identify relevant people in the church. In each church are people with relevant skill and experience, which could be imparted into the younger people. However, mentoring does not have to be from the old to the young. It could be between peers. Even the younger could mentor the older depending on the identified areas of mentoring. When it's on matrimony, mothers, grandmothers in the church who have seen it all could be made to interface with the singles on their experiences. Singles who are ready to get married could be made to interfere with the older mothers who are in marriage already. If the church could eradicate stigmas, the divorcees in the church could be made to share their experiences with intending couples on how their marriage crumbled. The church must be very careful in this area. There are so many people in the church whose marriages have crumbled. You can call them. Let them tell the younger ones how their marriage crumbled. It takes a very large heart to do this. But even in the church setting, you can mentor the younger women, because look at what is happening to marriages all over the world today. 2, You don't need the degrees. Some people feel that before you say I'm a mentor, oh, I must have degrees so that people accept me. To be a mentor in the church, you don't need the degrees or the privileged education. Neither do you need to be a Bible scholar. All you need is the love of God and the ability to communicate your thoughts. According to Kelly Matthews, one of the writers I read his book very well, you don't have to be a trained psychologist, but being available with timely and godly advices can make the difference for the individual who is without an anchor. Number 3, try new ideas on mentoring. The younger women don't need to be under mentoring supervision of older women. New things could be tried, like having the women to interface with the older men of proven integrity and younger men interfacing with older women so they could learn the expectations of the opposite sexes. There are times when the men should go and learn from the older women. There are times when women should go and learn from men. Let them go. Let there be a cross so that the women will know what are the expectations of men, and the men will know what are the expectations of women. Let us try new things. In so many churches, I keep saying this thing, that when they were doing maybe women convention, all they do is every time they will bring maybe a female preacher. Why don't you try new things by bringing a male preacher to tell the women during their convention the expectation of men, of their wives at home? When men convention is on, why don't we also have women to speak during men convention? Let us try new ideas on mentoring. In this part of the world, like I mentioned there, this thing will not really augur well if we just keep doing it that same way all the time. Number 4, pastors should be ready to release their associate pastors. Pastors should not see their younger pastors as employees. Rather, see them as proteges to be mentored and released in the fulfillment of training. Senior pastors should have it at the back of their mind that these pastors under them will go one day and be ready to set them free. In the city of Lagos, a pastor is well reputed for his mentoring skill. I don't want to mention anybody's name here now. It was reported that when one of his pastors was leaving his church to start his ministry, the senior pastor bought him all the music instruments he needed to start. He gave him a huge amount of cash and advised church members in his own church. He advised members who live in the vicinity of the new pastor to go to the new church. A pastor who does this is a mentor, not a tormentor, like we see in some churches where the pastor send forth the young ones with some courses. Number 5, be a true example. Many younger pastors disrespect their senior pastor because they have seen their weaknesses. Many pastors are not what they claim to be in the public. Do as I say, not as I do, is a famous mentoring cliche as it is in parenting. Kelly, what's his name now? Kelly Matthews posits that mentors must show their trustworthiness, demonstrate their love for God, and pray when they say they will. Some people will say, oh, I'm praying with you. Oh, I'm praying along with you. It's a lie. Oh, I will fast with you. It's a lie. He's eating in his house. And some people will find out, some younger pastors will find out that when my pastors tell you that, oh, I'm praying with you, or I'm fasting along with you, they know that he is eating. And then later, they don't have that kind of confidence in them any longer. These are some of the challenges many of the younger pastors have. Number 6, associate pastors should have teachable spirit. Pastors understanding their senior pastors should keep a teachable spirit within them. If you desire to get the best of men, be at your obedient best. Recognize the senior pastor is called and you are to function under his calling. Acting as if you know it all or more educated than him will only attract some kind of stiff relationship. If you are more educated than him, don't come there and start showing I'm educated. I know a guy who was brought from the village to Lagos, and a pastor put him under there. After about, I think 6 weeks, he started telling the pastor, I want to go to the Bible school. I think that I will learn better in the Bible school than what I'm learning here. You don't say such thing to your senior pastor. Be very careful. I am not saying that there's anything wrong in going to the Bible school, but there are ways of doing such things. Yes, it's good to go to Bible school. If you find that your pastor is deficient in a particular area, it is your duty to cover up for him. It is not your duty to expose him to the world. When the pastor realizes that he cannot trust you, you cannot have the best of relationship with him. 7, associate pastor should show loyalty always. The younger pastor has to show total loyalty to the senior pastor and his ministry. He is not expected to collude with church members to speak ill of his senior pastor or expose his weaknesses, like I said earlier. He is expected to fill in the yawning gaps created by the weaknesses of his leader. Not every time you notice that your pastor has a challenge here, and then the next thing that you start moving to church members, go to church members' houses, and then you are telling them, oh, my pastor don't mind him, this and that. No. Don't forget, God has called him to be the senior pastor of that church. He called him, not you. You went there to learn, to study him. I think I have taken enough time today. In our next broadcast, I will be looking at your pastor. No, I've done that, your pastor as your mentor. I'll be looking at how you can mentor your wife and how also you can mentor your children. I believe that you have gained some things today from this lecture, and I believe that come on Friday, we will be able to look at the other topics very well. I thank you so much for listening to me. God bless you. See you on Friday, 7 p.m. Bye.